guys, I've invested in both of these markets. They both have their pros and cons. Today, we're going to get into Temple, Texas versus Killeen, Texas for investors. All right, let's get right into it. All right, so first let's talk about the population, the demographics, right? So Killeen, you're gonna have more Army soldiers. So what does that mean? You're gonna have a little bit higher turnover rate, but there's so many coming in and out. It's fairly consistent tenant flow. You're not gonna have a whole lot of vacancy if you're getting steady military tenants in there. Main tenant in Temple is going to be nurses, really, because the main economic driver is Scott and White. So that is, nurses are great tenants, but then you also, they're in that income range where they can really just buy a house, especially if they're planning on being there for a while. In my experience, tenant turnover is not very high in Temple. A lot of my clients have had tenants, they've been occupied since they closed. So I think Temple, Texas is gonna have less of a tenant turnover than Killeen, but the rental rates, so if you're under $1,500 per month, you're probably gonna be okay regardless. But once you get over $1,500 a month, I think it's a little bit longer to initially get a tenant in there in Temple. So which one is better as far as tenants? In my opinion, it's gonna be Temple because you're gonna have less turnover. In my opinion, it's a higher quality tenant that's going to take good care of the place, but that's just my opinion. But before my opinion from my clients and my own experiences. All right, for the big one that everybody likes to talk about, cash flow in Killeen is always going to beat Temple. Why is that? Because Killeen has a lower purchase price, so you have a lower point of entry into the Killeen market, and then there's also a higher rental demand. So with all those people coming in, there's always a high demand in Killeen for rentals. And especially rentals, because if you're in the Army or if you're in the military, they're not thinking about buying a house because they don't even know yet. They may not even know if they're gonna be there for 1 year, 6 months, or 7 years. So it just depends for them. So what are they gonna do? Obviously, they're going to rent. So then you pair that with who has the more stable tenant. It's going to be Temple because they have, typically, I'm just speaking in general terms, it's gonna be a nurse that they're employed long-term with Baylor, Scott and White, or even the VA. So it's more stable, there's less tenant turnover. All right, so appreciation and cash flow. Historically, Killeen has had lower appreciation than Temple. The Killeen market is more, it fluctuates based off of the military, whereas the Temple market fluctuates based off of the hospital, obviously. But I will say that the data does show that Killeen historically appreciates less than Temple. And then the other thing is Killeen, it's a lot more investor-owned properties versus Temple, which is more owner-occupied properties. So obviously, if there's somebody who's living in the property, they're going to drive up the price, whereas the investors are going to drive the price down. So it kind of equates to lower appreciation. So what does that mean for the investor? So first of all, if your main focus is just cash flow, Killeen I like Killeen. That is part of my strategy for my personal investment portfolio. But I like Temple because you still get cash flow in Temple. And also you have more exit strategies, which I'm thankful for because I made a lot of dumb mistakes and I was on plan D by the time I was all done with it, and I still did well on most of them. So I like Temple for the flexibility on the exit. If something unexpected happens, you do a tight rehab in Killeen, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult to sell. There's just less exits in Killeen. I think if you're very solid on your buy box, what your wants and needs are as far as an investor for your portfolio or for your goals, and Killeen fits that, I think Killeen is an awesome option for you because logically it makes sense. You're gonna get better cash flow in Killeen, so why not buy up these cash flowing properties, and then you can scale, you can buy more of the same cash flowing properties. You can do that. I think that was my plan initially. I was going to just purchase properties in lean Harker Heights, get a bunch of cash flow, and then scale it into an apartment complex into the Killeen Harker Heights area. So I think is a great strategy. The only thing is that, like, if you're consistently getting deals, why not just keep turning the deals around? Why not flip them? Because now you have this 25,000 or this 25% in equity that you're not using. You may be getting a return on it. You're definitely getting appreciation. You're definitely getting a lot of benefits, but could you use that money for, like, what are you getting on return on your rental property versus your return on a flip? For me, I mean, a difference. Whenever you consider the flip, whenever you consider the equity, because you still have to leave equity whenever you refinance rental property. For the investors who want to replace their W-2 income with cash flow, Killeen is a great option. Now, for the investors who want to kind of, I'm doing is flip and until they can scale into maybe an apartment complex for cash flow, Temple, I think, would be a better option because you're gonna have more of a resale buyer in Temple. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of I'm off the script now, but listen, I think a lot of investors, they're really worried about like investing in something on Pier and Beam. So I think if you don't want something on Pier and Beam, Killeen has very good options that are brick slab homes. Foundation is good, everything is good, and you can get into them for like even 150. I had a client who he's a first-time home buyer, but he closed on one for $155,000, and it probably would have rented for about $1,500 per month. So there's definitely great deals in Killeen if you don't kind of worry about, Pier and Beam home. But for me, I like Temple. I like the Pier and Beam homes. They're easier to do rehabs, a little bit more of a hassle kind of on the initial like buy. You don't have to level them that much, a lot less than people think. And then it's like their homes, they're cheaper purchase price. In Temple, they rent out very well. That's where you're gonna see the biggest long-term rental return on a Pier and Beam home in Temple because you can get really good deals on them. All right, so I'm gonna give you all two investment strategies for investing in these two markets. First, I think it's huge to just make the jump. I don't care if it's in freaking Manor or Rogers, I don't care. You may make a dumb decision, but I personally think taking action is the best thing that you can do for yourself. And listen, if you work with me on an investment property, I'm not gonna let you go wrong. I'm not gonna let you make the stupid mistakes that I've already made. But let's get into these strategies. If I was starting all over, what I would do is I would buy cash flowing properties in Killeen, and then I would start building up, my bank account every single month. And then I would start getting into flips, because that way I have these assets here that are giving me money every month. And then I can get into maybe what a lender could consider as a little bit more risky and do a flip. And then start learning that. Now, what can you expect on a flip in Temple? Honestly, I just had an investor, he made a lot of money. I wholesaled him a deal. He did very well on it, but let's say average. I would say on a flip in Temple, the average is gonna be like 30 to 50,000 that you do that once a year. That's like some people's full-time salary in one flip. So you start doing that, and then you start reinvesting the flip capital into a cash flowing property. And you can kind of from there, you can do all Killeen, or you can do Killeen, Harker Heights, Temple. I think Temple has great cash flowing properties as well, and they appreciate better. I think Temple works really well if your kind of plan is to, split or, do something larger. And this is what I already said it, but the other option is you just do flips and keep reinvesting the capital into another flip until you buy something big, or Harker Heights or wherever it may be. My plan is to I'm gonna do a lot of research. I have been doing some research on apartment complexes. I really like the Killeen Harker Heights for apartment complexes and Temple. I have some really good ideas on apartment complexes in Temple. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to me. All right, in all this, if you are more focused on cash flow, I think Killeen could be a better market for you. But I think if you're focused on kind of all around appreciation, including, you know, tenant stability and cash flow, the Temple, Texas market is gonna be the winner for me. What do y'all think? Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And listen, if you are thinking about investing in Texas in general, please reach out to me. You can call me, you can text me, you can email me, or you can schedule an appointment with me right down below. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Let's get it.